Wrestling as a sport remains to be one of the most dangerous professions. The moves that are performed as well as the bumps that are taken put the body at risk. A single wrong move can put the entire career of someone at a standstill and see the end of their time in pro wrestling. Over the years, there have been many stars that have suffered debilitating injuries in the business, and WWE has seen the death of a prominent star like Owen Hart. Shawn Michaels was affected by an injury to his back which put him out of action for years, while others like Droz were confined to a wheelchair for their entire lives due to the injuries they suffered inside the ring. My name is John, and in this list we talk about the current WWE stars who have suffered injuries which might have completely derailed their careers. These 10 stars, be it in the past or more recent, all suffered injuries which affected where they are now in their careers. Seth Rollins was on the hot streak of the century when he first hurt his knee. As part of the faction The Authority, Rollins was the chosen one of Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, often receiving favors which helped him progress in his career. He gained the WWE title at WrestleMania, where he cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase during the match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. As he held on to the title, it looked as though he was set to become the face of the company when an injury to his knee put him on the shelf. He was injured at a house show and it took him out of action for the better part of a year. When he made his return to the ring, he seemed to be set to get back on track as he defeated Roman Reigns clean at Money in the Bank but lost the championship that very night to Ambrose, who cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase. Rollins would feud for the title but get trapped in a feud with Triple H, which finally culminated at WrestleMania. But on the road to WrestleMania, however, Rollins suffered a relapse, again injuring his knee. Thankfully for him, he was able to recover quickly in time for the show and faced Triple H and defeated him. It was only at SummerSlam, where Rollins reunited with Dean Ambrose, that he looked like he was back in the form that he had been in prior to his injury. Currently, Rollins is in the best shape of his life, but for a while after his injury, it looked like he may fade into the background. The Undertaker is one of the most consistent stars in the WWE and has been part of the company since 1990. Almost 30 years into his run with the company, The Undertaker has had not too many injuries to speak of. There was one injury, however, which caused the dead man serious grief, and actually resulted in him getting pulled from a World Heavyweight title match. During an episode of SmackDown, Rey Mysterio hit him with the seated senton, which smashed his face in, breaking his orbital bone. The Undertaker continued the match despite the injury, going on to hit Rey Mysterio with a tombstone piledriver to win the bout. However, while it's safe to say his career was not derailed, The Undertaker missed out on an opportunity, as he was supposed to take part in the Fatal 4-Way for the World Heavyweight title. He was likely booked to win the championship, as Mysterio, who took his place, won the match. It was the last opportunity Undertaker had to win a title. Although he competed for it against Kane upon his return, he lost all of his matches. A tag team whose main roster run has seen them surrounded by misfortune. No one expected the Revival to do so poorly when they made their debut on Raw. It was the Raw after WrestleMania 33, and the Revival came out and attacked the New Day, and they defeated them the following week. But what would happen next put a damper on their run in WWE since then. The team was put on a temporary hiatus after Dash Wilder suffered a broken jaw during an NXT Live event. The 2-month absence hurt their momentum. They geared up for their second run on the main roster when they attacked the Hardy Boys, starting a 3-way feud between the Hardys and Gallows and Anderson. This too was not to be. This time it was Dawson who ruptured his bicep, putting him out of action for 5 months. The injury severely hampered their chances of a proper run on the main roster. John Cena is one of the sturdiest competitors in WWE, but that's not to say that Cena didn't have his own share of injuries. One of his recent injuries was where he suffered a broken nose in a match against Seth Rollins, although the injury wasn't too serious. A more serious injury was one that he suffered a lot earlier in his career. Cena was on a hot streak as he had been the WWE champion for around a year. During a match with Mr. Kennedy, this all came to an end. He tore his pectoral muscle trying to hit a hip toss, and the condition was made worse when he took an RKO from Orton on a table, which did not give way. The muscle was torn completely from the bone, and it was at the time an estimated 7 months before he would be fully recovered. Cena shocked the world by returning early after having rehabbed furiously for 3 months instead. If the injury had not healed, the past decade of WWE could have been much different. When Finn Balor made his debut on the main roster, he had future star written all over him. He took part in the tournament for the Universal title and was actually able to defeat Roman Reigns cleanly in the semifinal stage. He faced Seth Rollins in the finals at SummerSlam and won the title, but missed out on an opportunity to nail down his status as the champion. He was injured during the bout when Rollins powerbombed him against the wall. As a result, he had to give up the title the following day. When he returned, he no longer had the same momentum as he did in the beginning. Since that time, Balor has been unable to capture a single title, and has lost in several matches. With this in mind, it remains to be seen whether Balor can make up for the lost time and make a comeback in the championship scene in the near future. Given his age, charisma, and ability, it seems likely that he may soon recover from the road the injury sent him down. Dean Ambrose suffered a torn tricep tendon early on in December. He had reunited with former Shield mate Seth Rollins to form a tag team, and the two were able to capture the Raw Tag Team titles at SummerSlam to become champions. Rollins and Ambrose then went on to reform the Shield with Roman Reigns, although the reunion was delayed due to Reigns suffering from an illness. The reunion appeared to be cursed, as soon Dean Ambrose suffered his injury which put him out of action for 9 months. The reunion of Seth and Dean had been working well for them both, and it will take time for Dean to make a comeback after rehabbing his injury. If Dean's injury was devastating, Jayson Jordan's was catastrophic. Dean's injury did Jordan a huge favor as it opened up a spot for him to actually make a mark after his push as Kurt Angle's illegitimate son. Jordan teamed up with Seth Rollins to actually succeed to pick up the Raw Tag Team titles. The two looked good together, and it appeared as if Jordan was being booked for an eventual heel turn and feud with Seth Rollins. And it's easy to think that that feud would have solidified his place in the upper mid-card and a potential main event player later. Instead, he suffered an injury and he had to be written off WWE TV to undergo surgery for an injury to his neck. The injury brought his career to a screeching halt, and while he has apparently been cleared to return soon, it seems unlikely he will have the same position as he had before the injury. Daniel Bryan's injury is one of the best known pro wrestling injuries of the previous year. He suffered multiple neck injuries as well as a lesion on his brain, and this injury led to Bryan having to retire from pro wrestling. His injuries came at a time when he had achieved the pinnacle of success in WWE, with the company actually pushing him for the first time. Bryan was less than impressed with WWE doctors who had not cleared him, but he would accept the role of general manager on SmackDown Live. Being a star who loved wrestling, the injury came as a big blow as his career came to a stop. This was one injury that would have a happy ending, however. Bryan would be cleared to wrestle ahead of WrestleMania 34 after 2 years away from the ring. The decision was hailed as a miracle, and Bryan returned to the ring to team up with Shane McMahon against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. A superstar that suffered one of the most tragic injuries inside a WWE ring was Tyson Kidd. The Hart family appears to be cursed, as Natalya's husband Tyson Kidd suffered an injury that could have ended his life. Kidd had the potential to be a future star, although he wasn't doing too well at the time. In a dark match on Raw, Kidd faced Samoa Joe. Joe hit Kidd with a muscle buster, but unfortunately for him, the move was not executed properly. The move left him with a serious spinal injury, which reportedly only 5% of people survive. He had 16 staples, 4 screws, and a rod inserted into his neck, with people observing that he was lucky to come out of the injury well enough to still be able to walk. Unfortunately for him, he was not able to return to the ring and currently works backstage for WWE in the role of being a producer instead of doing actual in-ring work. Paige seems like she was on top of the world as one of the best women's wrestlers, making her debut in WWE at the age of 18. Paige had all the potential to be the top woman in the company at some point in time. In her debut on the main roster, she won the Divas title after defeating AJ Lee in an impromptu matchup. She was a huge part of the women's revolution and saw the transition of Charlotte and Becky onto the main roster. She had turbulent times with WWE disapproving of her attitude and relationship with Alberto Del Rio later in her career. Suffering a neck injury, her time off television was only lengthened when she was suspended for breaking the WWE wellness policy. Finally, her relationship with Del Rio fell through and she came back to WWE to continue her career. She made a return as the leader of Absolution, a faction including her and 2 NXT call-ups, Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. Her time on the main roster was restricted, however. During a house show, she suffered an impact injury to the neck. Paige also suffers from scoliosis, a condition which makes any neck or back injury worse. The doctors didn't clear her to return to the ring, and Paige would subsequently retire from in-ring competition. She continued to accompany Absolution to the ring, but after WrestleMania announced her retirement on Raw. On SmackDown Live, she was revealed to be the SmackDown Live general manager, replacing Daniel Bryan, who had been cleared to return to action. At only 25, this injury not only derailed but ended her career, making it extremely tragic. And these were 10 WWE wrestlers whose careers were derailed by injury. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching Wrestling Hub, and I'll see you later with more wrestling videos.